Formula One is the best when two drivers fight head-to-head, but it becomes even spicier when those they are fighting are on the same team. And unlike many other sports, when you play together and become friends, in this sport every driver is out for themselves. Their teammates are their first obstacle to victory. So of course, there are rivalries within the teams, and sometimes they become quite cringe-worthy. More in this video. First of all, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. How else can we start off this list? We'd like to remind you, and in case you didn't know, to bring to your knowledge the most famous in-team rivalry in Formula One. The two heavyweights went up against each other at the all-conquering McLaren team in the late 1980s. Both of them have been amazing drivers and have won plenty of races, and the animosity between them kept getting worse in 1989. It all started with a war of words, and the most controversial moment between them came when they were racing in the Japanese Grand Prix. There, they collided while fighting. Senna got up, though, but was later disqualified and was forced to give the title to Prost. Then Alain went to Ferrari and said that he was quite happy to leave because it had become quite impossible to work with Ayrton. And when the Frenchman signed for the Williams team, he labeled his rival a coward. The two of them went on to eventually go and resolve their differences by the time Prost retired, but their time on track was filled with contention. Next up, Gilles Villeneuve and Didier Pironi. This Ferrari rivalry wasn't only one of the most intense in Formula One, but it was also the one that ended with tragedy. Initially, Villeneuve got on well with his teammate Pironi, but there was one incident on track which eventually meant that the Canadian wouldn't speak to the Italian ever again. During a race, the two swapped positions on several occasions, with Didier believing he had the right to overtake his teammate. But that wasn't what Gilles believed the team wanted, and his teammate had made this about wanting to win himself. Ultimately, the Italian overtook the Canadian and won. Of course, this left Jacques furious and feeling that their relationship wasn't ever going to repair. And then 2 weeks later, the tragedy struck. Villeneuve wanted to go faster than Didier and suffered an enormous accident when he tried to pass Jochen Mass, who was also in the race. He flew off the track and the impact immediately killed him, which led people to wonder if he was trying to go faster than his teammate. The truth is still unknown, but Alain Prost has said that the week before he died, Gilles called him multiple times, talking angrily about Pironi. He said, "When the accident happened, I knew exactly why." Next up, James Hunt and Jochen Mass. James Hunt won the World Championship by a single point over Niki Lauda, but then he won just 3 races throughout 1977. Then his less than impressive season got worse when, in an attempt to pass Mass, another driver ran wide and gave the lead to him, who then bumped into Jochen. Hunt said that he was right up Mass' shuff and was forced to go left, and then suddenly he moved across to the left, hit the brakes, and waved him through on the right. But of course, he was committed and couldn't avoid him. And when he climbed out from the cockpit, the reigning world champion walked in the direction of the track and, in the heat of the moment, punched a marshal. He was later fined for it, but he still made no effort to hide his anger and shook his fist at Jochen every time his teammate drove past him. Talk about pettiness. Moving on, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Both of them were friends when they were young and teammates in karting, but things between them got bad when Hamilton replaced Michael Schumacher at Mercedes in 2013. In their second race as F1 teammates, the tension between the two was evident when Rosberg was ordered to hold position behind the billion-dollar man by their boss, even though the German went on to set pole position in 3 of the next 4 races and even won in Monaco. When they introduced V6 turbo regulations, Mercedes got their dominant car in 2014, and that's when the two got even worse. In Monaco, Lewis was denied the pole after his teammate's mysterious off-track trip, which led to the German racers' win the following morning. Then later during a race, Nico got very angry when Hamilton refused to obey team instructions and collided on lap 2, which resulted in his retirement. This led him to have another career-best winning streak and Rosberg to become extremely error-prone. Of course, that didn't help the two to be on friendlier terms, especially when old wounds opened during the Chinese Grand Prix. After that, René Arnoux and Alain Prost. Prost, rest in peace, is twice on our list, leading us to believe he had quite a rivalry with many of his teammates. And this one is with René Arnoux, who was the established force at the Renault team in 1980. When he joined the team, though, things started to change a little bit for René. They didn't see eye to eye from the beginning, and Alain kept on dominating him with wins. The latter refused to obey team orders when they were leading, which put his relationship with his ex-teammate beyond repair and spoiled the French manufacturer's first 1-2 finish. The two couldn't repair their relationship after having several other incidents, and Arnoux went to Ferrari to replace Didier Pironi, who was the main guy in the team's manufacturer's title win, taking 3 wins. We also have Alan Jones and Carlos Reutemann. The two won a combined total of 6 races in 1980, which was a pretty huge deal, and with the way they were going, the Jones-Reutemann pair was one of the most dynamic partnerships as the former raced after success, and the latter perfected the backup role. But it all came crashing down one day when when Carlos ignored the team's orders to have his day in the sun and won the second round of the 1981 season in Brazil. Allen was of course furious. He'd won the opening race of the season at Long Beach a fortnight earlier and refused to stand on the podium and went ahead to 14 races without a win as Reutemann continued to win and got his second win in 4 races. They no longer had any clear team structure, and it proved pretty costly as the two fought among themselves, taking points away from each other. Because it was now a rivalry, they were no longer playing for the team. Then the crafty and cunning Nelson Piquet took advantage of this contention to take the 81 title by a point from Reutemann, with his partner an extra 3 points behind, even though he'd returned to winning ways at the final race of the season in Las Vegas. It hadn't worked. Their animosity cost them a win, and Jones didn't forget it. When Reutemann offered to bury the hatchet, he didn't agree. There's also Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber. Who doesn't know their names? Their rivalry started before they became teammates at Red Bull Racing. They collided behind the safety car at the wet 2007 Japanese Grand Prix, moments before both drivers had a very strong chance of winning a maiden win. And Webber made his feelings very clear after the incident happened. But any hard feelings were quickly put aside when the two became teammates and won quite a few races. They were happily serving the team together until the two decided they were out for themselves when Red Bull produced the fastest car for 2010. After winning easily in Spain and Monaco, Mark was about to go for his third victory when Vettel edged across the track and made contact with him, which led to his elimination. Who could forgive something like that? And as fans of the sport, you guys know what a big deal that is. After that, their relationship was never the same and just kept getting worse and worse when the team removed the updated front wing from Webber's car and gave it to you-know-who. Lastly, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. When Alonso was at the top of his game, there was a 22-year-old British kid who was busy conquering everything that was laid out in front of him in GP2. That kid was Hamilton, who after impressing McLaren in testing became the shocking choice to partner with the Spanish racer. Guess what? The win for the Brit came when Alonso had his worst performance of the year, and Fernando made his frustration clear when he chased him down, waving towards the pit wall. Their relationship worsened from there on and got worse when he sabotaged the young driver's final qualifying effort, for which he got a grid penalty. You wouldn't expect an experienced driver to do something like that to a youngster, but there are no rules in F1 when it comes to personal driver relationships. That's it from our side today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Which one do you think was the most cringe-worthy feud between the F1 teammates? Let us know in the comments below, and see you in the next one.